Hopefully everyone is joined. Welcome to our first online Xcake meetup. I've seen a lot of old faces. I've seen a lot of new faces as well. Yeah, so you can raise hand as Liam does when you want to speak. And I'll be able to basically bring people over and switch them ability to talk. So, so what is the heck is Xcake? For people who joining us first time, it's a Dublin-based meetup about mobile development. Started around 2008-ish. I don't remember. I joined myself in 2008. Probably it was a bit earlier. So a bunch of lads like iPhone enthusiasts, Dermot Daly, Damien, Ocean, started this thing, and basically people joined, more and more people. We're slightly biased towards Apple and iOS things, so we welcome Android people, but just in general, crowd is a bit more about iOS. And we used to run monthly offline in Science Gallery, but then we basically Science Gallery stopped providing space at some point, and we still try to run it, but on less regular basis. And last time we had a meetup was around like last November. So this is our first cross-border Xcake. I've seen already people from Canada, Russia, Italy, Ukraine, Ireland, of course, and I think we have one attendee from Australia as well. And both our speakers today are not from Ireland, so yeah, this is truly our first cross-border Xcake. So like there are a couple new things. Yeah, like this morning, I just asked my designer to draw a new icon for a restart, and we have a shiny new icon. I'll put it on our Twitter account, and hopefully we'll have more things to announce in future. So yeah, and remote pub. So I set up Kuma Space. So this is URL. I'll post it as well later in the chat. So after the official part, we can move to the Kuma Space and hang out there. Will be bring your own drink party. So yeah, unfortunately, gonna buy all you beer today. Sorry for that. So agenda for today, we have two talks today. Nick from Italy, he's tech lead in Phorest, and he'll talk about React Native. And then Vlad from Accionista will talk about mobile CI setup. And then we'll go around 8-ish. We'll go for pints. Yeah, it is a temporary measure. Hopefully at some point in future, we'll be able to join a real pub. Yeah. And one more thing, speakers. We need speakers. We'll always reach out to speakers. So if you want to talk about anything mobile related, any tech thing about iOS, Android, cross-platform development, we have formats is like Xcake Labs, which is more about like hands-on live coding. We can do that. We host some UX and design talks, app showtime. If you created some new exciting app and you want to show it to people, get some feedback, they also welcome. And if you have some stories about like how you started a business around mobile, or some professional talk about, I don't know, how to negotiate a better salary as an iOS developer, we're welcome to make a talk as well. Yeah, this is my last slide, so I will stop sharing. Zoom doesn't see my mouse, so yeah, sorry, yeah. And oops, and Nick, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, to start.
All right, so I'll share the screen, yeah? Share screen and hit play. Great. The annoying bar. Let's move it down below here. I bet you can see my screen, guys, and you can hear me well, so let's start it. First of all, thank you very much for inviting Phorest, for inviting me to talking here at the first, online event of Xcake. And, it's amazing even just to see a lot of people, a lot of friends that I haven't seen in a long, long time. Even just seeing on the monitor is just great. So thank you very much for that. This is actually not my first online meetup. Still always in Dublin from Rimini though. Dark red COVID area these days, sadly, but we're all fine, thank God. Last time, it wasn't bad at the online meetup. It's just 20 minutes in, I got probably my only power outage in the house. Never happened before. So we had to close it, the last 20 minutes or so with a 4G dongle, smashed on the only window where the 4G works very well with my laptop like this, on my hands, just to try to close it. So this time, let's hope technology is with us a little bit more. Okay, so let's go to the talk. Is React Native for you too? This is, guys, is probably, talking about cross-platform here. And this is the talk I really wanted to have probably I've listened to really about 4 or 5 years ago when I was about, to figure out if cross-platform was something for me. Now that, I've seen some of the guys into the chat, it's not exactly like that, because I do remember that I watched one talk which made me move even faster. The guys from Artsy and Orta, with their omakase, or I don't remember exactly how you spell that, but their point on how they did React Native, that was really inspirational to me for moving forward. And I hope that, if you are just wondering or just curious, this talk is going to help you. Yeah, so let's, mouse, you're right, I can see the mouse as well. Okay, anyway, the space bar works. First of all, a bit of table of content, so you know what we're talking about in this sort of a 40 minutes plus questions. Who's talking to you? You need to know a little bit of my background, and the reason is I'm going to talk about quantitative things here, qualitative things versus quantitative. I'm not going to talk about frame per second or stuff like that. I don't care. But I'm going to tell you, feels like, it feels like native. The bounciness is like native. The speed is okay for a native mobile app. So in order for us to understand and to trust me, you really need to understand who's talking to you. I think it's fair. So a couple of minutes on my background. Why React Native? Why I decided after a long time to move over React Native, a long time on the iOS development, both personally and related to Phorest, because every story you can find a parallel with yours, and maybe they match, or maybe they're so far away that you think is not for you. That's fine as well. What Phorest built with React Native, just to show you, is not a toy. What we played with, and I think it's a very good experience. So it's valuable information, I think, for you. The Phorest architecture, what we put together. And it went in black. Okay. Eventually, a bit of retrospective, what works well and what didn't work very well for us. And eventually, a recipe for success, which I think are the key parts, to make React Native great, or for failure. Because if you want to make a point that is not for you and you want to fail with that, I'm going to give you the recipe for that as well, So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Nicola Zaghini. I'm Italian. I'm a tech lead at Phorest. Phorest is a salon software in Dublin that provides software for hair, beauty, barber, and spa owner. That kind of business, okay? We're talking about then from desktop application that the salon owner and the staff can use when they are in the salon, a mobile app that they can use in the store to see what's the next client, to add a treatment and all these kind of things, to see the appointment. And another product, another mobile app, which is the application that they provide to their customers, right? If they want to book in an haircut, a color, whatever, okay. And clearly, this is more or less very quickly a presentation of the company. And, I play the role clearly of the mobile tech lead. So mobile is my part in this. Before Phorest, though, where I spent most of my time on React Native, what did I do? Basically, I worked in airline industry as a native iOS developer for over 10 years. Air Canada is probably one of the few that were not our customers, but it's the only picture that I could find. It was nice enough to put in there. But yeah, so basically, since the first SDK was released, which was March 6, 2008, I Googled that. I always been on iOS, indie game development, like everybody at that stage, without any sort of sprite kit, with Arc and everything, up until probably 2018, when I stopped really to develop on native, right? And the mobile application we were involved in were first EasyJet, the first EasyJet ever delivered, and which was kind of very early times, and then Etihad Airways and Singapore Airlines, all those kind of apps that came from the glorious mobile travel technologies, which we have a few friends here as well. They came also, good chunk of that code base came here from Rimini, because I'm a remote worker since 2010, really. So in the last few years, I wasn't actually paying too much attention, sadly, to the actual coding, because it was more involved into the architectural part of things. I was mobile architect over there. And you can actually think, or I sometimes, or I was challenged at that time, and the question is, once you have this sort of a path, why would you give up everything, a lot of knowledge on a framework? Swing was even decent at that. Swift was even decent at that stage, right? It was not the original one, which we all jumped in. It was a bit of a disaster between Objective-C. Very few were lucky to have a white canvas to start writing Swift from scratch. You have to merge with Objective. It was a mess. But anyway, why would you do something like that? Well, clearly, as a mobile architect, I was challenged. I was asked almost the impossible if you are not thinking a bit outside, because I was asked to please provide us with the native experience that we know today. And when you talk about customers like EasyJet, Etihad, Singapore Airlines, the pixel perfection sort of a sentence, it's really, really strict. The animation has to be really, really smooth. If you know what I mean, it really plays a part where those guys, they're not taking, like, oh yeah, it's not exactly great, but fine. We have to be faster to market. This is the challenge. We are way too slow. We have two platforms, sometimes three platforms. There is the web platform. We're way too slow. We want feature parity, and it was a struggle for us. I'm quite sure it's a struggle for everybody that has two different teams on iOS and Android. But in general, for us was a very big struggle. Affordability was yet another problem, because you start to touch that point sooner or later in terms of how many people you have to have, how much it costs, and all this kind of stuff. An incremental approach solution you have to give me. Nobody has the luxury to start from scratch and destroy everything we have built so far. So you need to give me an incremental approach, and also please give me something that in 5 years' time, you tell me it's still valid, it's still there, and probably better than today. So there were a lot of researches at that stage. That was my personal kind of approach to the cross-platform, and clearly, having evaluated pretty much everything that was out there, React Native to me was absolutely the answer. And I'm going to explain that a little bit later. But yeah, this is the landing page of React Native. If you just Google that and you jump there with a bit of information. So basically, I bet all of you know what is React Native, but it's a tool to create cross-platform application that work at least on iOS and Android, which for most people, will suffice. But you can even extend a bit more with that. And this is where I arrive, and where probably after studying React mostly, I fall in love with React and the way that React can build mobile application compared to what I was used to see. And then how Phorest jumps in, and probably here is where a company can kind of sympathize with the same kind of approach. Phorest, it's in the game somehow over a coffee, really, with some old friends, again, probably for mobile travel technology, where being kind of an expert on the mobile field, mobile architect in a very big company, they actually come to me with a request for a suggestion, because they have a very interesting challenge, probably a challenge that eventually I loved, which is I mentioned they do have apps for their salon, right? The customer of the salon. So if you're a guest of a salon, you can download their app, book your appointment, pay for the appointment, reschedule your appointment. You can do all these kind of things. And they don't have an app for all the salon, because that would be completely against the philosophy of Phorest, which I'm not going to go through here now. They do have one app for each and every salon. Okay, so at that stage, they managed to put out there about 1,000 mobile application, native iOS and Android. And they clearly had a problem that you can guess already, which is, how do I maintain, send bug fixes, send new feature to over thousands of mobile application, which and stay sane? How do I scale this, given my numbers are gonna, my projection is for 10,000 and more? How do I do this? And clearly, this doesn't have to do much with React Native in itself, in fairness, but I kind of had some sort of an epiphany, knowing React Native didn't have, I kind of had some sort of a solution, and I was looking for a problem at that stage. And I found my problem, because I knew that with React Native, and I'm going to explain a little bit later how it works internally if you don't know exactly how it is, I could have provided them with a thing which is called over-the-air update. So technically speaking, it's code push, it's called code push, but it's an over-the-air update, which would have let this sort of a product, which was about to die, to have a new life. So basically, this is how I meet Phorest. Phorest, to me, they were extremely courageous, because they basically brought me in and they said, a guy that you have your experience, but you never wrote a line of code in React Native, just a couple of spikes. But yeah, just take this white canvas. In this stage, I was lucky. I could discard everything and start from scratch and rebuild it with React Native if you promise us this sort of an over-the-air update of your binary, especially for bug fixing, not maybe for major feature, if there is any Apple reviewer that is listening at the moment, but just for mere bug fixing, that, it's something. So it was a risk on both parts, but that to me was a great opportunity, an amazing challenge. And this is where Phorest sees React Native. Again, not strictly related to React Native, but it's something that without it, you cannot enable. So now, given I gave you this sort of an introduction, which you may find yourself kind of similar way or not, but definitely not the thousands of apps. I do understand that is very unique. I just want to bring you a little bit, back to the future and show you what we built, because at the same time, here's when I show you, it's not a toy. It's not a toy. We built this thing, which we call it branded apps internally, but this is the app for each and every salon. As you can look, from on the screen, is a templated app or white label, with several parts that can be customized per customer, clearly. So your brand, your app, your way. Again, it does quite a lot of things, because you can see you can rebook, you can select your, a very nice calendar, you can select the appointment, you can pay for your appointment, you can reschedule, you have stylist, a lot of logic on choosing, the color that matches your cut and all this kind of thing. So it's an app that, makes transaction. So what it is really is a book and manage appointment application. It's templated. One really good thing that surprised me and a lot of people is that it only took 6 months to put together this app, which takes about 20 screens, more or less, with 2 engineers. One it's me, and I can definitely say I got a good experience on developing native and delivering mobile applications. So I know where I want to go, but I didn't know how to get there, because it was my first experience on React Native. The second engineer was a graduate guy, very good one, but still very, very little experience. So to me, even this number here, was quite shocking for me and for the company in some way. I also want to put here this number because I think is useful for people that have never delivered React Native and think, how different is going to be the code between iOS and Android. Today, for me, it's not even a question, because there is no differentiation. It's the same. That 90%, 88%, 98%, it's made up, because I can count on my hands, you know, the numbers of ifs I have in the source code to say, okay, if it's iOS, do this, if it's Android, do that. So it has to be probably even 99.9. I have no idea. It's definitely not a problem or not considerable. And clearly the over-the-air update is something that changed completely, the life cycle of our development. And, you know, it's very, you know, it's an enabler when you have thousands of applications. It's an enabler for sure. It's a very nice to have thing when you have a single app, and we are using it even on a single app. I'm gonna explain that as well too. So just, you know, a bit of numbers here just to convince you that it's not a toy app. We have 4,000 application lives in the store, iOS and Android, 12,000 daily active users, and 2,000 appointments daily, roughly. Clearly with COVID, those like that, but if you do sort of a average, this is more or less the numbers, yeah. Yet another slide to show you the capability of the GUI, which really, there's nothing we couldn't do, really, and it's actually quite cool. It's actually quite sleek. So to summarize, 6 months to engineer, a lot of features in there. Look and feel, to me, is actually gorgeous. To give you the final, recap of what we built, this is the quote from our CEO that, you know, what he told us is, all in all, this is one of the most impressive things the company has ever done. How smooth it went was kind of surprising for me, at least. Okay, but that opens, and then you can open another chapter. You know, not everybody has the luxury of doing what we did, which is really to say, okay, you have this product, scrap it, either writing from scratch. You know, that's easier, right? Mixing native and React native must be a nightmare. So I was of this sort of idea, and I didn't want to do it, but everybody, you know, we need to work with what we have, and this time I couldn't win it. The application for the staffs this time, the application that the salon owner use internally, where they see their appointments and so on, is a single native application which works on both iPad and iPhones and Android. Clearly, you log in and you see the data of your salon, but it's just one app. It's fully native, is tremendously feature rich. And we wanted to build another feature on top of it. So we basically, what we did, we added a menu item. You can see here on the left, which is basically the left image is a full native app. There is a sort of a pink icon, which is called My Performance. Imagine those buttons to be like tabs, right? Like in the tab bar. So everyone is its own flow, is its own context. So it's easy like that to integrate another flow, which is fully React Native. Everything else that you can see, you know, center and right, that is pure React Native, and it looks good. And you know, another thing I wanted to point out, you know, it's there. There is that nice calendar. It's beautiful. People love it. We didn't write a single line of code. We just customized it, because one thing I was really afraid of, but eventually, especially today, you know, the community is huge. The community is huge, and you find open source everywhere. We have a calendar here. We have another different calendar on branded apps. And all this stuff is actually, you know, give credit to open source, really, absolutely. So this is an hybrid and hybrid native React Native application introduced as a new standalone feature. So my advice, or the thing that I'm trying to avoid as hell, is really to say, I do have a React Native screen, a native screen. Oh, let's do this nice little button in React Native, because that wouldn't make a lot of sense, I think, in terms of, you know, overhead and everything. This took 3 months with 2 engineers. In this case, the second engineer was a very senior engineer, Android engineer, which helped me a lot, because I think that I'm going to say afterward is that you really need to have iOS and Android people in there, or at least a very good iOS or a very good Android that can touch the native side of things, because you can't just pretend you are living into the React Native JavaScript world. We were worried about, I was worried personally about the bridging. The bridging was a piece of cake, in fairness. It's asynchronous, it's all asynchronous communication. Sorry, when I say bridging, if it's not clear enough, how the React Native world talks with the native world and vice versa. How do they talk? You know, how do they share, for example, a login token? How do they share data? It's called bridging, and it's way easier than I assumed. Just you need to stay in tune with your mind that is asynchronous, is not synchronous. So this is the feature. As you can see here, basically there are several steps. I just wanted to have this slide for the last one, where we actually put there some sort of feedback, like, you know, Do you like this feature? Can you give us, a few stars and a couple of comments? And in all of this, you could put a 2 stars or 1 star if the feature is not useful, but also if the feature it behaves like crap, right? It's very clunky, it's slow, it's ugly, it doesn't run well, you click it, crash, and all these kind of things, right? So the salons guys, they have no idea what React Native is, they have no idea what iOS is, they have no idea about anything. They just want something that works extremely well. And basically, we got a nonsense amount of replies because those guys are very, they like to talk a lot to you. And we got an amazing review of 4.893 over 5. We really take care of our, decimals there. So that to say that even this thing within Phorest Go kind of was an amazing success, something that I previously didn't anticipate. Like React Native on the previous app, which actually brought React Native into this app, given the great success, I wasn't anticipating that well. Last but not least, there is the usual one more thing, which I hope I can, because I can't see the mouse. So can I click? Okay, great. So what about the cool latest stuff? If you go React Native, are you blocked on doing anything which is cool and new? Not at all. Here we had fun writing Swift UI to build our own widget. This is nice 14 widget, which talks with the React Native part of the application. And basically a salon staff can say, I want to see my number for the week. And they have their number on a glance all the time. So this was even a very, very nice addition. And, it was probably more difficult to write the widget itself than actually make the two worlds talk. So you're not limited on anything, if you know what I mean. So now let's jump. Now that I hopefully put together a framework of interest, maybe, or maybe not, let's talk about the architectural pillars that we put together so I can finally get to talk about React Native. And another thing which I think is truly, truly powerful, and you get it only with React Native, as far as I know, which is code push. Fastlane is part of our pillars. Thank you to all the guys at Fastlane, because they're amazing. They do a lot of work, incredible thing. I'm not gonna stay too much on that because I bet most of you know this already. But yeah, I mean, Fastlane is an amazing tool. Okay, so what is React Native? This picture to me tells everything about React Native. I can, if you like, explain a little bit more, but with this picture, you see exactly the essence of React Native. If you want to compare React Native to Flutter, which a lot of people ask me to compare, or to Xamarin, if this picture is more than 1,000 words. You have 2 puppets there. One is iOS, one is Android. The user only sees the real thing. The user look at an iOS UI kit on the left, an Android, UI element native on the right. This to me is the essence of React Native. There's no compromises. What you don't see as a user is the puppeteer. Where is the puppeteer? I don't know, it's up there. In general, I don't care. I just want to have a very nice puppet show. And this is what React Native gives you. At least that's what I think. To make it a bit more technical, because we probably have to have a couple of diagrams in a conference, this is the app. Let's do an X-ray on this application. So to explain very well how React Native works, because someone, even when you interview people with, in relation to React Native and so on, it can get confused. So React Native, eventually, you have this sort of the blue part is all the native code, is all the scaffolding native code you have, plus the React Native SDK for simplification. There are many SDKs there, but let's just call it React Native SDK. And this is your puppet, all the blue things, right? So when you ship to the store, you ship an API or you ship an APK. You ship what you have always shipped, a binary. Internally, though, there is an engine which actually, and this engine is the puppeteer, right? You have an engine that through a thing called bridge is manipulating and moving your UI kit, your native stuff, okay? The engine, being an engine, has to consume something. It's a thing called app bundle. And what sort of engine is this, you think? The word that everybody hates is a JavaScript engine, okay? It's a JavaScript engine because your bundle is a JavaScript bundle that gets interpreted at runtime, really. So This is a quote from the original page of React Native, which I showed you before. I didn't want to tell you that stage, but I can tell you now. Written in JavaScript, rendered with native code. All this dance of the puppet, just to say this little concept, which to me makes everything, okay? But since we are all coming from decent languages, it's written in TypeScript and rendered with native code, or at least this is something that we do. I mean, we have a lot of JavaScript developers in our company. They don't understand why the hell we want to do TypeScript at any costs, but I don't think I would be able to deliver anything if not for TypeScript, which is amazing. You know, when you work with Swift, with Kotlin, you jump to TypeScript, you know, is the same thing more or less, at least to my knowledge, to my understanding, you know. So another thing that I really wanted to put here, because the guys that work with me thought it was actually very useful, even if it's probably too deep for this sort of a conversation, is our setup. Because React Native in itself, you know, with React, you really you have a huge freedom to choose your own tools and your own libraries. So our setup looks like that. So we got React Native 0.63, which is the very latest. We only write functional component and hooks. I'm going to talk about hooks a little bit more later on, because I believe, especially for mobile development, I don't do web development, so I don't know exactly over there, but especially for mobile development, have been a huge revolution, at least for me. As a mental model, they changed a lot. And I wasn't one of the first adopter. Actually, I came very late to the game because I was kind of busy, didn't want to put some other concept in my head. But once I saw that, I genuinely went there and rewrote a lot of stuff, because for the future, that was best, I think, for our code base. Redux Toolkit and Redux Saga. This is usually one of the most interesting conversations when someone talks about React. What state manager do you use? And you can drink a lot of beers on top of state management. I'm telling you, I'm the kind of guy that doesn't take anything for granted. So I started the first version of branded apps with nothing, just React Native pure as it is. I wanted to see when it falls short. Then I started with a thing called unstated, which was a prodrome of the context. Then that fell short, then context. And then I realized that, you know, our apps are too complex. I need a sort of Redux, and Redux Toolkit gives me a lot of power with a very small boilerplate. So at least March 2021, this is where I would go for my new project. Redux Saga to make network connection is just amazing. And React Navigation for navigation, because navigation, I'm going to tell you afterwards, is one of the pain point. You know, there are pain points, but today it's way mitigated. But even just a couple of years ago, it was kind of very hard. And now, what is code push? The famous over the air update, the second pillar. So here is very simple, actually. From the bottom left, the Phorest mobile infrastructure, we tell Microsoft, which is an amazing free service, Microsoft App Center Code Push server, hey, we have a new JavaScript bundle, which is a single file, which contains the Puppeteer, all the logic of our own apps. It contains everything. Hey, this is new, and this is its version, semantically versioned. Next time, one of the 1,000 installation running apps on any iOS and Android device that opens up, or you can define when you want to check this, goes to App Center and says, something new for me? And App Center tells if yes or no. If there is a yes, it just downloads this blob of JavaScript, which is compressed and very hard to read, but you don't care because it's a sort of pre-compiled. Get it back, the application downloads it, reboots itself, and if it's a successful reboot, all your new bug fixes are there, all your new small feature are there. If there's an issue, it's smart enough, the phone, to say, okay, there's a crash. Silently, I'll just show you the last version that we know it works. So you have not lost a user. So this is how it looks like on our application. As you can see, we added this animation to make it nicer. So we tell the user, hey, we are improving your experience. So it clearly goes in loop here. We're improving your experience. Wait for me to download. It then reboots, white, boom. And from that moment on, the user can play with the app and all the new feature and bug fixes are applied. No store, no waiting for the user to click on the icon and say, download the app or update my app. It's forced to the user. It's really, really handy and powerful, I have to say. This is how a code push looks like behind the scenes. So you can see how many downloads, how many installations, the number of rollbacks as well. So if something failed, the version that you are targeting and so on, it's an invaluable tool for me. Fastlane, very, very quickly, there's a lot of infrastructure here. We just send over 3,500 application binaries to the stores. Circle CI powers all of this, but a lot of our automation. For example, we don't generate screenshots on the fly. It would have been a disaster. And then how it works. The binary goes to the apps. Yeah, a lot of our automation in there. So just to give you an order of magnitude, we started with React Native. Clearly, it took 6 months to build the app. It probably took another 6 months to build all the automation to manage the scale. So because finally, the infrastructure here is way more than I showed you there. There are plenty of tools that play together, including Airtable, to keep track of everything that happens, because clearly, you get mad otherwise if you have a spreadsheet or anything like that. And many other tools. We use Sentry, for example, for crashes and so on. So basically, what we have is a one-click over-the-air instant update, and this is powerful, yeah, because we definitely released once an issue, a release that there was a problem with paying really to make the final transaction to get the money on the last step, and try to go to your CEO and explain, look, it's going to be a couple of days of app review. What can I do in these couple of days? Nobody's going to be able to make transactions. Basically, we could fix it. If you're really, really into something, you get 2 engineers over there. In an hour, it's fixed. In an hour, the QA have done his job. In 2 hours' time, everybody get the fix and everybody's happy, more or less. One-click new customer on board. So basically, from no app in the store to app in waiting for review, we have a blazing one-click with iOS. Sadly, not for Android because it's not that much automated with Fastlane these days, but still a very good approximation. The bulk binary update, that's impossible to have in one click because, we only twice a year we update all the apps when really we need a new SDK, okay? Because if you need a new SDK, you really need to change the blue part, the native part of things. And doing this bulk update is actually much more difficult. Android is easy. You can get 90% in full automation of all those apps. Android 65 to 70%, and then you have to manually manage them. Really, it can be anything really. Most of the time is reviews that the app was reviewed last time, this time no, it's not valid anymore. So guys, I don't know about time. Can I go ahead another 5 minutes on the retrospective? I just lost completely track of time. 30 minutes. Sorry, I started the watch here. So what went well? Blazing fast development speed. This is something that I was shocked. I really was in love with the technology, which is something you should never do. But I really, really loved React at that stage. And I said, I see that there is potential because I used to say the native part of React Native is the part that I don't like because you have to fight a little bit with React Native. But React in itself is just a beautiful metaphor to develop mobile application. There was a little bit that it wasn't really amazing. And, they had to port clearly originally, if you also today build a class component, they had to port the usual framework method, lifecycle method, like view did appear, view will appear, all those methods, they had to exist even on React, like component did mount, component did down mount, all this kind of stuff, they were an imposition on top of something that was thought throughout and was finished, but it had to be imposed in order to work into our mobile phones. The moment that they released the hooks, especially the use effect, this thing is completely gone, and you can keep thinking in React only. So that's why I decided to go there and say, look, I take now the step of rewriting pretty much everything I have with this technology, with the hooks and the use effect mostly, because then it's readable. Then it's way more readable, easier to reason about. So when I see those trade-offs, I just jump on them and screw it, and I think that there's a lot of value there. Fast refresh versus compiling. So fast refresh means that since there is this JavaScript puppeteer internally, as soon as you save on your IDE, basically you have an instant change into your emulator or your iPhone. So you don't have to compile time. And someone can say, it's a little thing. It's a little thing. When I go back to native, because I have to go back to native time to time, it kills you. It kills you because it breaks your flow. It totally breaks the development flow. Even if I have a very powerful machine, I have an M1 here, which is amazing, takes too much time, the compilation, compared to the experience I have now, that if I hit save, boom, boom, instantaneous. This to me gives you speed in a here time to multiple developers, saves you time. Testing, I was extremely impressed with the testing. The fact that you can use a lot of web tools, the Jest framework for testing, the snapshotting for testing, which I'm not going to go in details here, are just things that we dream of in the native world. We really could only dream of. I was really scared then about integration, IDE integration. What if I cannot debug this thing? Can I not? Well, I started my React Native life with VS Code when it played amazingly well. Then just probably a couple of months ago, when new hires came in, they just told me, look, have you tried WebStorm? I said, no, I don't know why I have to pay for something. And actually, there is reasons. So right now, I'm personally developing with RubyMine because we develop a lot of infrastructure, so a lot of Ruby on top of Fastlane. So it's RubyMine, but those tools are just amazing. The IDE integration is just great. And the community, as I mentioned before, I was scared the community wasn't there. What if I don't know something? I go to Stack Overflow and it's empty. Maybe 5, 6, 10 years ago. Today, you feel like, there's every answer over there, even feels like you're cheating like usual, right? So overall, twice the developer delivery speed. This is what we noticed, because you are faster on a single platform. You're definitely faster. We felt faster on a single platform, but not just me as a developer. The product owner, which used to work with mobile guys, the QA, which used to QA a mobile application, the designer, everybody felt like you're blazing fast. How is this even possible? Again, you're not just fast on a single development, because I develop for iOS. So for me, the emulator is iOS emulator, the iPhone is the iPhone, yeah? And you remember, but there's also Android that I've just done, right? Let's have a sanity check. And maybe you have to add that if, but it's very, very seldom that it doesn't work properly on Android too. And again, non-compromises on overall speed and quality, in fairness. We haven't found any situation whereby, this was way too slow. And, I'm saying here, which I haven't said that, but sometimes I don't even use flat list. Sometimes you just render a map of components because we have machines that are so powerful, and I've never seen a glitch, even if it's not a fast list, which is baked by a performant reuse of a cell and all these kind of things, is a special component in React Native, versus imagine just to spit out a long list of things, which clearly makes some sort of a DOM much longer and complex to parse, but still never seen a glitch. So now let's talk about the other side. What went hell? There were clearly unexpected development slowdowns because, as I mentioned before, navigation was one of our biggest struggle at that stage. Way less today, because probably a year or a year and a half ago, I was in Poland in a conference when they announced it. Basically, this library, which the community is pushing ahead, is blessing, is called React Navigation, basically got a big bump. And now you can work with it much nicer. Before it was a bit more rusty, and probably the only thing is that to make the two worlds work together, it wasn't really intuitive for an iOS developer, it wasn't at all. So I struggled a lot, but eventually everything was doable. So it was never stopped. Library upgrades, this has to be mentioned. When you have to upgrade React Native itself, it may take a little bit of time, but I'm not talking about mental things here. We always manage that in a matter of 1 day, 2 days. Once I was at a conference, I was doing a workshop on React Native at ADDC in Barcelona. And the organizer, had this application built with React Native, and they were like, we abandoned the app for a year. It's a nightmare now. We have to upgrade to latest React Native to get the latest feature. So it took us ages to fix that. And I said, ages, but how long did it take you? 2 days. 2 days, not ages. I mean, if you abandon an app for 1 year and you want to upgrade to the very latest, when we had all the new Swift coming along, it was a bit of a nightmare too. So I don't think this plays out to be a very, very downside, but something I had to mention. Crash reports, you have to be, very nice to organize your native crash versus your JavaScript crash. Originally, on first version of React Native, which I played with, which were already kind of new, you could get some JavaScript kind of very nebulous crashes. You couldn't symbolicate. You just didn't know what was that, and fine, finished. It kind of stopped over time. Either I got better because I told you I had to learn my way up, or the platform itself become way more stable. So right now, no more unknown crashes on JavaScript somewhere, so which is very, very good. Native SDK, especially if you mix the native world with the React Native world, sometimes the SDK of React Native and native can clash in version. It happened to us because we have one of our apps is very, very old, the Phorest go up. So in there, you probably, that's why I'm saying you need some sort of a native engineer with you to be able to understand those problems and fix those problems. But again, nothing that would discourage me to onboard any other React Native project, in fairness. And now, the how to make it. Passionate team. You have to have people in your team that really wants to go in this direction, that are really, really thrilled about the idea of building apps in React. And, if you put them on a React sort of a crash course, I think they will fall in love because it's just amazing. Seniors with previous native mobile experience. You really need to have guys that know at least iOS or Android quite well, that have delivered app into the store, that know what a mobile app is. Otherwise, to me, it becomes very, very difficult. The other side of the flip of the coin is that you jump into Expo. Expo, it's a library for React Native that gives you pretty much everything. It's more of a framework. It's very comprehensive. It also ships to the App Store for you. It's really, really meant to me for people which is more from the web, that they really need to do something, really want to do something, but they have very zero or very, very little knowledge from native. And if you stay within their boundaries, it is great because, you get everything for free. A lot of things that you may sweat on, you get it for free. The moment you want to go out, it's just impossible or very, very hard. So we decided not to go in that direction, strong with our, past and our knowledge. It was an interesting learning curve, but not mental, because the 6 months for an app like that, talk by itself. Good React understanding. Again, this has to be understood. You really need to breathe the React because you have to change your mind. You have totally to change your mind. Sometimes, again, when I go back to the native code, I have to switch on that way of thinking, the data sources and so on. It's kind of, the brain, has its own trouble. You really need to get the philosophy of React, and you're going to love it because it's just very, very simple. The thing that I love it is very simple. There are 3 concepts over there, and it's done. Once you master those 3 concepts, you can do whatever you want. And finally, don't forget about TypeScript. So guys, this is pretty much it, because then I have the cons, but my teammates made me realize that just the opposite of the how to make it. So how to screw it. The team is not sold, that they're not going to make it fly. Plain JavaScript, maybe if you have excellent developers, but I think you get lost very soon. A junior team, again, you need to know what is your aim, where is your target. A mobile app is this, so we need to build this. No iOS and Android experience in there. Probably the star there was for Expo. I don't remember anymore. And on a perfect 42 minutes, thank you. We're clearly hiring, as everybody I bet in Dublin. And, more than happy to take any questions, hopefully I can answer them.
Hey, Nick. So I have 4 questions. The first one from anonymous attendee, probably your competitor of Phorest, or I don't know. Wow, managing 4K apps is pretty wild. Congrats. What does deploy plus upgrade automation looks like?
Deploy plus upgrade automation. Okay, how it looks like. So basically, you have to think about that daily. There are ops that, they onboard daily 2-3 new customers all the time, right? So we have created for those ops guys, which are not super technical. They have a technical level clearly, but not super. They are not developers. Just to understand, we created for them simple shell script whereby they just say, okay, I want to onboard, click, and then tell me the salon name, tell me the Apple ID, tell me all this information, and our automation together with Fastlane just generates everything. I have to mention to my competitor that the most clever thing that we did, it was not my idea, and I didn't even develop that, but I take credit, thank you. It's this idea of generating the screenshots for the app upfront, offline. So we have those, since those are templated app, which is easier than we have an SVG with all the elements on the screen that can be customized by color, if you know what I mean, or the different nuances of the GUI. We have an SVG and an engine that applies on top of this SVG the color of the specific customer, the name of that, and we generate all the PNGs upfront, both iOS and Android, so that when the Circle CI jobs kicks in, it finds things already pre-baked, which are stored safely in S3. Just has to pull a lot of things. This is the day-to-day. And then I mentioned once or twice a year when we require a big binary update, because sadly with code push you cannot deliver anything that is related to the native side of things. We have our own automation that kicks those jobs one by one, and it's very complex because Apple will stop you if you send too many megabytes to a single account and so on. So you have to take into consideration a lot of things, and this is the binary update. On the daily update, if we have a new feature, let's say a sprint finishes and we have a very nice feature that we have developed, doesn't require anything magical but just new source code or maybe a bug fix, it's really a click of a button, because we just say yarn code push. This brings the code push to our QA in a safe environment. The QA can play with it. The QA drag the story to ship. And then we have another automation that you go there, you type and you say promote. It's called yarn promote. And it asks you, do you want to promote the latest code push in production? Yes. And that's it. Everybody get the app. You can see the numbers going up. How many people are downloading, how many people are installing. Boom, 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 boom. And this is our day-to-day. The day-to-day is magical. Is really magical. Coming from Apple review and having to explain what's changed and so on. It's really magical. I hope this answers the question.
Thanks. And all other questions are actually regarding code push. So Richard Hulan asked, does it send the full bundle or diff between the previous version?
A diff.
Yeah.
Technically, I don't know internally. Maybe Arthur knows. I have no idea, in fairness, if it does a diff or anything like that. For sure, I'm quite sure that when we do the command, so technically speaking, you have to compile locally or in a Circle CI clearly the JavaScript bundle, which usually is not huge unless you have tons of images over there. But ours is about 2.5, 4 megabytes. Nothing crazy. And then you have all of it, and I think you send definitely over to code push all of it. I don't know if it does anything magical, but I would doubt. If I have to bet, it's the full payload. I don't know.
Right. Awesome. Thanks. Ocean asks, is code push against Apple guidelines or it has changed?
No. So code push is definitely aligned with Apple guidelines. As I mentioned before, for every Apple reviewer online, we only deliver very minor feature upgrades and bug fixes, which is absolutely allowed to be shipped, in order to give a good experience to your customer. If there is a big feature, it does come with the native. And that's also really valuable because then you get, the nice one. The user can see, oh, there's something new for me. What's new, and all this kind of thing. Why code push, even if you could do it internally, is mostly silent.
Right. Thanks. And what are the limitations of the code push? How often and why do you end up having to push actual app updates? So again, question from Ocean.
Yeah. So again, here you can push yourself. Again, you should stay into the guidelines, which is minor updates and bug fixes. In terms of, say there were not guidelines, the only reason why you would have to change the binary, it's again, if you have a new SDK. I'll give you an example. You want to add or upgrade say you want to upgrade your Stripe SDK because there is a new version which supports the famous strong customer authentication. Your React Native code, which talks with that SDK, you can't just ship a new JavaScript code which wants to talk with a newer SDK which doesn't exist into the user phone, if you know what I mean. Or another very easy example, today it happened that the guys introduced an SDK to do some sort of a radiant kind of shadow or stuff like that. I don't remember exactly. And that required a little bit of native things, probably to take advantage of some native code with acceleration. But the idea there is that if I shipped over to all the apps a JavaScript that is looking for that SDK, and the SDK has not been shipped, the app will crash. So how do you prevent that? You need to have a little bit you have to be a little bit cautious. We, as I said, code push does support semantic versioning. So you can target your code push to a specific version, that version on top. You can do whatever you want. So our technique internally is that as soon as we have a new SDK or a change on the native, we just bump usually the minor version. Okay, the major stays there. We bump the minor, the bug version, we don't care. And so we say, okay, today we release 6.3. So at the same time, we just say code push. From now on, whatever I ship can be applied only to 6.3 onwards. And code push does the rest for you. So if there is a 6.2 installation which doesn't know about that SDK, it will not download because otherwise it knows it will crash. If you as an engineer make a mistake, it's not a big deal because again, code push will receive the new JavaScript, which you erroneously targeted to. It will crash, but the user is not going to notice because code push will figure out that it crashed and load the previous bundle, which was not put into the bin, until there's going to be a new code push. So that code push here is marked as it doesn't work on this device for some reason, X. I wait for the next one and the next one until something works. So it's quite safe in that regards. I was scared initially, in fairness, but it's quite powerful.
And thanks a lot. And last question is from Baz, and I think I know answer as well, but he asks, I thought distributing many clone apps from one dev account was against App Store rules. How do you get around that?
No, it's absolutely true. It's totally against Apple rules. So we basically have, okay, originally it wasn't. So we have accounts with a lot of apps in there. And those are there, so are there. We do ask every customer to open their own account, and then we are a developer for them. The big question is, how do you handle 2FA? That's the real question, because that's really, truly, powerfully difficult. And yeah, we have our own automation that, tries to deal with 2FA, because 2FA, it's truly the only thing that is hard to beat. But yeah, we do have a lot of automation on top in order to make even that experience bearable. But again, I explained probably before, Phorest doesn't get scared about this stuff in the regard that this is what is best for our customers. So we will do whatever it takes to give them what is best for them, because a single app for all of them, like a marketplace, it's another business, it's another idea. It's not something that Phorest pursues. So we really have to fight these kind of things. But yeah, no, we are 100% in the guidelines. You know, every account, every salon has his own account and a single app in it, and we are just developers for them, which is allowed.
I wanted to add that it is against. So I think they introduced a couple of years ago this new rule that clone apps are not allowed. And they tried to push a few businesses, basically a lot of businesses were suffering, all white label apps were suffering from that. And I think they did not remove this part of the guideline, but they stopped rejecting apps on that basis, because like we had a customer, another white label app, also with thousands apps in the app store on the same code base. And they publish, I think, either everything or most of the apps from the same developer account, which is, yeah. And the last question, so we'll switch to another speaking. So the last question is from Daniel. Was React context not sufficient to manage the global state, or what is the main reason you use Redux?
Yeah, excellent question. So yeah, when I went to context, I was very happy. But I realized that just after a while using it, that context is not a state management. Context is for context. More cross-cutting concern than actual application state, which are two different things. You can code them the same, but they are two different things. So at a certain point, I found myself writing reducers on top of context, writing a lot of things, a lot of my boilerplate to handle the state management. And then, you know, other people joined, and, you know, I really wanted expert people that, you know, cross-pollinate ideas, and they were from Redux. And I was looking at this Redux, and I knew Redux, and it was like, it's very verbose, I don't want to put that in. And magically I Googled, I don't know how, Redux Toolkit, which is a sweet spot in the middle. I see a lot of code that I had to write on top of context to handle the state properly that Redux is doing already. And I've seen that, you know, I don't have to have all that boilerplate. It's actually much, much, much smaller. This idea of a slice of state, which I really, really love. And that's why I moved from context to Redux Toolkit, because, you know, and now I think it's going to be hard for me to go back, because I have a really, really powerful tools under my hands, and I don't have the overhead. So yeah, a little bit probably, but still, again, if I look at context, I had to add on top of it stuff. And again, there I realized is not the right tool, is not a state management context, is another thing. That's where I thought, you know, it's time to change. But I had to go through this, you know, it's normal.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Like really, really amazing talk. I really want to try React Native myself now. So cool. Thanks a lot. So we're switching to our next speaker, Vlad. Just wanted to remind everyone, like, if you're writing to the chat, there is kind of a drop down saying panelists and attendees. So better switch to panelists and attendees, because like some people just write to us instead of like global chat. It's a bit weird. So by default, it sends only to us. So yeah, thanks. So Vlad, you can start.
Yeah, give me a sec, please.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I hope you see my screen. Yeah, my name is Vladimir. I work in Axonista, and my talk today is about mobile CI automation. Yeah, hopefully in Axonista, I think hopefully we don't deal with 4K applications, just with a few, I can say, but more than with one. And my talk will be about this. Yeah, about Axonista. So first of all, Axonista is a video commerce company. So we provide great interactive video, live streaming, and shoppable experience for users. Actionista, I can say it's still a small company, but it's growing. So now it's about 35 employees and something about this. At the same moment, we have a small devices team, just 10 people, I can say. And yeah, what else about Actionista? Actionista is a product company. It has a great product, Ediflow. It's a kind of CMS for video content distributors. But Actionista have great enterprise customers, and every customer wants their own personalized experience for their users, for their end users. So that's why we built specific mobile and not only mobile applications for them. Yeah, in Actionista we built multi-platform applications for iOS, Android, tvOS, Android TV, and other TVs. So yeah, a lot of them. So because Actionista has several customers and with several applications, that makes Actionista somehow service company with a lot of customers and a lot of apps. So I prepared a table how I can see the different companies can deal with their CIs. It's nothing official. It's just my observations from my experience how companies deal with CI in there. For example, if you are a freelancer, you definitely can survive without any CI/CD automation. You can just press buttons and so on because you produce not so many features every week, for example. If you're a small company, for example, if you're a small product company, you'd better to have some CI/CD automation, but you can have just one person, a single person who can deal with all this automation. If you work in a service, in a small service company, yeah, almost the same situation, but maybe you have different people from different teams who work with CI/CD. In big product companies, there can be a real department of automation who deal with all the automation tests and infrastructure and so on. In big service company or outsource company, how we call them, they're also a department, but every team for every project can have a dedicated person who set up their CI and CD. Speaking about Actionista model reminds a service company model with a few people who deal with automation. So it's kind of a role for engineer. Yeah. First of all, yeah, I need to remind you what is CI/CD. Why do we need it in general? So the letter C in CI/CD means continuous. So it's continuous development, testing, deployment, distribution in some cases. So it's something continuous. So somehow CI/CD standardize your processes, which is good. Especially this is good if you have more than one project. And also for me, as for engineer, CI/CD just saves a couple minutes every day because yeah, I don't need to spend time to press some buttons, and yeah, so it's just helpful. Specifically about Actionista. This talk and our CI/CD is specific for us, which is great. And maybe every company has to have very specific CI/CD. On this slide, you can see a schema of our Actionista Git workflow. It reminds Git flow, just classic one. So we use feature branch and we merge code from them to develop branch. And also I can say specific of work in Actionista, that we don't need to release builds to App Store very often. So our main goal of our CI/CD is to provide our builds with new fixes, bug fixes, with new features, to provide these builds to QA team as soon as possible. This is our main goal. So you can see on the picture some branch X, for example, and we need to provide this code or this build to our testers, to members of our team. So this is the main goal. And also, maybe it's a tiny thing, but for me, it's very important that every build must have clear description what it is. So in other case, QA guys will often ask you what build number 16 include in it. So you need to have clear explanation what is built for. Also, every our project supports more than one targets. At least there are 2 targets. Some projects has 4 targets. Also, just tiny thing is after increment of build numbers, but it's a boring manual stuff if you do it manually. So we need our CI/CD to increment these build numbers for us. Also, I think linters, in my opinion, linters also is a part of CI/CD. So it's also a part of standardization of your processes. So it's how we make our code style, how we write code in some general way. And as the last thing, and I think this one is also important, that we have a great documentation culture in Actionista. So we write things down and to refresh our minds. So in my opinion, CI/CD also must be documented somewhere. So about the facts, so we use GitLab, a cloud one, to store our code. We use Fastlane. Of course, we use Fastlane for automation, and we use Bitrise. So why so many stuff there? First of all, GitLab doesn't provide Max for the cloud CI, so we just can't use cloud GitLab. Fastlane is a great tool, and you must use it when you deal with CI/CD on mobile platforms. Also, Fastlane scripts are written in Ruby, so it's high-level programming language, and in my opinion, it's much better than providing some YAML configs. So some just configs. Better to use some programming language for it. What else? Bitrise. Okay, but maybe Bitrise is the best tool money can buy. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But Bitrise is a great provider of Mac infrastructure. And for example, if you spend a couple days setting up your Jenkins, you will love Bitrise. So let's go. The next thing, and maybe it's the coolest part of this talk, it's how we deal with many projects, not 4K, but not thousands of projects, but some projects. When firstly I need to implement CI/CD in Actionista, I started to think that I will need to write a lot of scripts which will look almost the same, and somehow me or some my colleagues, we need to maintain this code, and yeah, that looks like hell. But next I realized that we just need to combine our CI code somewhere and write some library for Fastlane, call it plugins. They simply extend Fastlane actions with their actions. So yeah, we wrote our own internal Fastlane plugin, and yeah, we put all the common code there. And on this slide, on the screenshot, you can see how simply can your CI/CD script can look if you put your code, your CI/CD code somewhere into the plugin, for example. So basically, in Actionista, we can ship our build with a single line of code. About the plugin, what exactly it can do. So first of all, incrementing, commit, pushing build number. Yeah, as it's a small stuff, but it's important. It can refresh the themes. I will talk about this later. Why do we need it and how does it work? It of course it can upload build to App Store. Yeah. Also, the plugin knows how to prepare that changelog message with clear description, what this build about. The plugin even can prepare a specific icon for our targets. And I also will talk about this later. And yeah, the plugin contains some utilities, like it can say you whether or not your Git status is clean or not. Yeah, some stuff like this. So every single line of common code is placed in the plugin to make our scripts completely simple. Yeah, versioning of iOS projects. Imagine you have 4 targets in your application, in your project, and one day you just can't forget to change a build version in some of your targets. To avoid this, you can just put the version of your target. Yeah, you just can get rid of this version in your target settings and put this setting in the common project setting. It's not so useful when you change it when you need to bump your version, but it's the only way to keep it in one place. In this case, you will never make a mistake with the version number, and yeah, every time your targets will have the same version. The opposite with the build numbers. So we store them inplists. So and that makes possible to have specific build numbers for every target, every branch we use for every feature. Yeah, it's small details, but yeah, it's just useful. The most scariest part of CI/CD for iOS is code signing. But there is such a tool, call it Match. I hope you heard about it. I'm just going to tell how we use it in Actionista specifically. So Match is for folks who are not common with this tool. So Match is a plugin for the Fastlane, and it helps you to deal with certificates and provisioning profiles. Match uses a common signing identity across the team, so that helps it to avoid duplication of profiles. In Actionista, we don't use automatic generation of provisioning profiles, which supported by Match. We import our provisioning profiles by ourselves because we just want to have a full control of this tool. So we push our via match, we push our provisioning profiles and certificates to specific repository on GitLab, and match encrypt these files with IIS, so it's securely stored on Git. Now about Bitrise. So Bitrise is powerful tool, but we use just a part of this power. So because we need to prepare a few builds for every feature branch, for example, for a few targets, we add a master trigger on Bitrise, which started on every push to every repository. So maybe it doesn't sound correct. For example, if you need to prepare builds only for merge requests, but I think this solution is much simpler. And if you just need, if your work is in progress, you can skip this automatic building, just putting skip CI tag in your commit message, and that tells Bitrise that you don't want to start any trigger at this time. So next, what master trigger does? It simply runs another workflows. Yeah, every workflow works for some action, like building some build, or some other action like refreshing the themes or running tests. On the slide, you can see how it's exact screenshots from Bitrise, so it looks very simple, like 4 steps in master trigger and 3 steps in a real workflow. So for example, for a staging build, it's just 3 simple steps, like and most of them are generated by Bitrise. There's nothing to set up there. So firstly, it activates SSH case, and next cloning all the code to the clean machine, and next it runs a Fastlane script. That's it. So just 3 simple steps on Bitrise. How to run Fastlane scripts on Bitrise? In the black rectangle on the slide, you can see how to run Fastlane screen on your machine. So it just Fastlane command with some parameters like iOS build to run build lane, and almost the same on Bitrise. So you just put this command in the environment variable, and you can run the script there. So it's very simple. Just set up one parameter, and that's it. Also on Bitrise, we keep some our secrets, like a password to match tool. So it's a password to decrypt our provisioning profiles and certificates. Another variable is Fastlane password for our helper user from Apple Developer Program. Yeah, about the secrets. The last one, trigger API, some internal Bitrise parameter which you can find in the settings. About the secrets, they are encrypted and they are not placed in Bitrise config. So even if you want to put your Bitrise config on Git, so this environment variables will not be there. And now another environment variables, not from Bitrise, but from our projects. So it's Fastlane environment files. So if you are common with Fastlane, you wrote some Fastlane scripts, so you have a few options how to deal with your constant parameters, like project name, I don't know, target name, scheme, application identifier, and so on. You can put there in the code, and put it keep it there. Or you can, if you need to change this parameter time to time, you can use command line parameters. It also works, but it makes your command line really huge and like kilobytes of text. And the best solution is using Fastlane environment files. You can just prepare for every setup, for every target, you can create this file and put all your parameters there. It's super clean, and that makes just 2 slides back. You can see there are env prefix and the name of the environment file. That's it. So, and all your parameters will be there. About that comment from the slide from beginning, how we shipping our builds. So yeah, it's a boring diagram for this tech talk. So there are 6 steps. Yeah. First of all, we preparing a changelog. I will talk about this in a minute. Next, we incrementing a build number. Yeah, it's some internal part from our plugin. Next, we run match to download all this, not all the, but just one certificate for one build and one provisioning profile. Next, we installing Kakao pods. Some our projects use dependencies on source control, so there is no such a step, and our plugin support disabling this step. So it's pretty flexible. Also, the step which I like is updating code signing to manual to just ensure that everything will be great. So we set up manual signing and we set this downloaded certificate and provisioning profile. And the final step is pilot. It's a name of Fastlane action to upload build to test flight. And that's it. So basically it's this, the last step, but some previous steps before it. About the changelog. So how to describe your build. Yeah, it's I will not describe every step on this boring diagram. So I will. This slide is here because I just want to say that it's nothing magical to automatically prepare a description for your build, for your application, if your engineers write meaningful commit messages. That's it. So it's really good practice to link to just put the number of your Jira ticket in the commit message and put the title there, and that's it. It's everything your engineers need to do. And next, the algorithm is simple. You just need to find meaningful commits between version commits, and that's your description of your build. In our test flight, it looks like this. So first line is always the name of the branch, because the name of the branch is the most meaningful thing, because if it's feature branch, you can find a number of Jira tickets there. If it's a develop branch, you know that it's some build for regression test because it's from the main branch. And another, there are the changelog with the last commit messages. Yeah, it's really simple. It's just I don't know, 10 lines of code, of Ruby code in our plugin to prepare this description. As I said in the beginning, Actionista makes apps for different platforms, and tvOS is also one of them. And of course, it's cool to have CI/CD for tvOS too. The bad thing is that tvOS is not officially supported by Fastlane team, but the good thing that it just works. You just need to add need a couple of additional parameters to your environment file or to the place where you store your parameters. The funny thing that they use different platform parameters for different actions, like platform for shipping build for pilot and match platform for match, and the constants are different. Also, tvOS and WatchOS, as I know, they mandatory requires to enable bitcode support, and excuse me. Yeah, so you need to enable bitcode for tvOS builds. And about this in the next slide. If you enabled your enable bitcode, somehow you need to deal with DSIMs. And yeah, of course, it can be done manually by downloading and uploading them to Crashlytics. But if you can automate it, let's automate it. So Bitrise helps us in this place. So we schedule it. Yeah, scheduling is a better Bitrise feature, so it works. Hopefully, we scheduled almost every day running of some specific workflow. It also very simple. It's just running one lane from our scripts. So how does it work? So every night, Bitrise run a lane which downloads DSIMs from TestFlight and uploads them to Crashlytics. So it's pretty simple. Yeah, DSIMs downloaded from the last 24 hours. Yeah, that's why it ran every day. About the unit tests. So unfortunately, we don't have great culture of unit testing in Actionista, to be honest, but hopefully some projects we write tests for some projects, and yeah, if you write tests, you need to run them somewhere. And also Fastlane helps here. They have a plugin, another plugin called Scan, and you just need to write a scan file. It's settings for scan tool. Scanning your project, find the unit test and run them. So that's it. And on the screenshot on the right, it's almost the same workflow. So just three steps, and just running a Fastlane lane. And on the left, you can see that there is just a simple call of scan action. And I did nothing with this tool in the plugin because scan just works. So you just put a name of your app in the scan file, and that's it. It just works. It's very simple. And almost finally, on this slide it's a screenshot. There are 30 lines of code. It's a real Fastlane script from one of our projects, and what this 30 lines of code can do. So it's it can ship 2 iOS targets to TestFlight. It can ship 2 tvOS targets to TestFlight. It can run unit tests for iOS, and it can refresh DSIMs for iOS and for tvOS as well. So I think it's pretty a lot for just 30 lines, where half of them is just some beginning and ending of lanes and comments. So yeah, and I think the plugin is proves how helpful it is, so how clear and short your scripts can be. And the final stuff is icons for our staging builds. Yeah, we have a template for every project for staging build. It's just a red caption on the bottom, and Fastlane has another plugin called Beige. Beige helps you to make specific icons for your project. But I didn't stop with this Beige plugin. I also built in representation of our template of that PNG into the plugin, and added an action to prepare staging icons. So we can just run simple command in terminal, like Fastlane run staging Beige, and our plugin prepare a staging icon via Beige. So it all that left is commit and push your changed icon to the repository when you start a new target. And that's pretty it. Okay, resume. Yeah, Fastlane is great. Use it. Use the high-level language for your scripts and avoid vendor locks as well. So, for example, if you put all your config on Bitrise without Fastlane, yeah, it's possible. But next, your boss can tell you Bitrise bills are too expensive. Please use this Mac Mini. And what will you do? You need to just write your own CI on this hardware, and don't repeat your code. And yeah, even it's CI code, so just put it somewhere in some library or a plugin, and please automate all that possible to automate. Yeah, just for example, DSIMs, yeah, it's easily can be done manually, but it also can be automated. So why don't you automate it? And about the test, if you don't, in my opinion, if you don't run your tests somewhere automatically, you don't have unit tests, so they are useless. So you need to put it there. And yeah, write docs, because write documentation. So because for example, from my side, after a weekend, I always forget all the commands from terminal, and yeah, all the code I wrote. So docs are very helpful for me if we're speaking about CI/CD especially. Yeah, that's all. Thank you. Do you have questions?
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks. Can you tell us what is skip to FA update line was in the Fastlane configure file?
Yeah, I was expecting some questions like this. Yeah, since this year, Apple, how to say, forbidden accounts without 2FA. But guys from Fastlane, they, I think a month ago, they merged a new parameter to their master branch and released it. So as this parameter is just avoiding some specific error with accounts without 2FA, and yeah, it still work, but so we don't know how when it will stop working. So, but now it's a workaround to deal with accounts without 2FA. So.
Thanks a lot. And Orta is asking, did you ever explore fastlane.swift file?
Well, so no. The short answer is no. What's confusing me, for example, yeah, we had a good start with iOS CI/CD, but we need to add Android. We need to do the same with Android using the same plugin, because there are a lot of common stuff for different platforms like changelogs and so on, bumping version. Yeah, not bumping, but something like icons and so on. So are you sure that your Android developers will be okay with Swift scripts? Maybe they, so if they prefer Ruby, it's better to use Ruby, for example. But yeah, Swift scripts also look promising if you just Apple team, not mobile team. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Thanks a lot. It was a really interesting talk. It seems like Fastlane is super popular. Everyone is using it. I used it. I remember. I don't remember the year. It was probably 2013 or something like that. I had a coloring book app translated to 12 languages, and I was after auto-generating screenshots for every single language, and it was a great help. Thanks a lot, guys. It was like really interesting talks. I have to disclose, probably most of you know, I work for Xcake as well. So I just wanted to to mention that, and mention that we also hiring iOS, Android, and Roku developers, but I'm doubtful that anyone knows any Roku developers. Another thing is that I just posted a link to Kumo Space. That's like it's unofficial, our unofficial pub for today. So we usually have this unofficial pub when some people who have some time after the talk head to the pub and some drinks, chat about various things. So yeah, you can join. I think this link should work all the time. So like not just today. So like if you want to hang out with someone there at another time, you can save it for later. Thanks a lot, everyone. And again, I wanted to stress out that we always looking for speakers. So if anyone want to present next month, probably someone has a Swift UI experience, right? So like that will be very interesting to hear as well. So hopefully see you guys in Kumo Space, and yeah, thanks a lot for coming. I will keep this room running for some time so people can click the link in the chat if they want to. See